Jim, how's it going, man? Jim?
Hey,
What's up, brother?
not too much. How you doing?
Doing all right. You ready to do this?
Oh yeah.
Let's go. Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen. It really doesn't work as well when there's not a studio audience. Today is March 29th, 2020, Season 4, Episode 13. I'm Eric Murphy, and with me today is Jim Barrows. Jim, how's it going, man?
It's doing good. How's your pandemic going?
Oh, lonely. All's quiet on the Western Front, and I think that's a good thing. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so excited to see you on the show, and I'm so excited that you're able to join me and help make this happen. The idea of remoting in at all was a foreign concept for Talk Heathen before this, but the amazing thing is we have our crew all over the place. Jim, how long have we been testing this to get it ready for today?
Since Tuesday at the very least.
Yeah.
I think Vern's been planning it for quite some time, but Tuesday I think was when we first started putting it all together.
Mhm.
And then there was a bunch of work Saturday, and I had to run around and drop equipment off it on folks' front doors, and after disinfecting it and going through that whole process. So
Well, it is sincerely appreciated. We just want to thank the amazing crew that we have. We have an entirely, yes, there is the crew cam right there. All of them safe at home, and we're very, very grateful for it. Also, I do want to let you know that because we have a new system set up, the regular number is not what it's supposed to be. So if you want to call in today, and we do have lines open, if you want to call in, the number is 512-991-9242. That's 512-991-9242. Give us a call, come and talk to us. If you like what we do and you want to continue to support this, we need the help. We had to get an extra program or two or three to be able to get this to happen. Our producer is working remotely from home. Our audio engineer is working remotely from home. Our call screener is working remotely from the other side of the United States. Jim, you're on another side of Austin.
Right.
If you like what we do, consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen to me. Every bit of that donation goes directly to the atheist community of Austin, which helps do community things when the community can get back together. But it also enables us to put out educational content like this, like the Atheist Experience and other shows like that. So thank you. Jim, speaking of other shows, you've been on a couple and you're a regular on one of them. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Atheist Vanguard, and I've also been made a regular on AXP as well. And in the rotation on nonprofits. So yeah.
Dude, that's what's awesome is you are homegrown. Like when I first met you, you were just, and you still are, just this absolute teddy bear. I love when I get to see you. You give the best hugs.
Oh, thank you.
And you're just a super smart guy. You actually started the Philosophy Under the Influence, which is a local weekly thing up until this whole event has happened. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit? How did you start?
So I started before I moved to Austin, so about 3 years ago now, at the Human Society for Greater Phoenix, and wanted to get more into philosophy. And there's this really, really great program called Crash Course in Philosophy on YouTube. It's done by PBS. Hank Green is the host. And they just do a really, really good job of a bunch of intro courses. They're 10, 15 minutes long, so it's not super deep into any philosophical topic, but it does cover them all and does give you a good intro. And I thought this would be really kind of cool. Take a bunch of people through this and have a discussion afterwards. And so I got it started at Human Society for Greater Phoenix. Was not expecting to move anytime soon. But then the opportunity came up and I was like, well, do I really want to stay in Phoenix or do I want to move somewhere else? moved to Austin and had so much fun with it before, decided to start the group back up again. And so we have finished the crash course in philosophy series, and now we're doing science fiction and or philosophy and science fiction, looking at the epistemological arguments that are made in the first Matrix movie, talking a little bit about the effects of time travel and causal paradoxes in Contact. So watching a bunch of great movies, rewatching some of them in some cases, watching them for the first time in others. Listening to the lecture from the Great Courses, which is where you can find science, philosophy, and science fiction courses. Those are about half an hour to 45 minutes, and then talking about those afterwards. So we just have a lot of fun digging in deep onto a lot of different topics.
Well, it's sincerely appreciated, and I absolutely love that. Coming in, you really did provide serious value to this community, and
Thank you.
I'm proud to see that you're providing serious value to the greater community by being on our shows. So I'm proud. I'm proud to see you here, brother. And personally, as a friend, dude, I'm excited. I'm really excited. We do have calls on the line, but before we do that, we do our usual status check-in. Jim, how's your week?
Week is good. This is kind of normal for me. It's not normal for my employer. So it's kind of funny to watch them go through learning curves and go, well, we could do it that way, or we could do it this way and make it easier for everybody. Because they're used to making people come into the office every day. And that's not normally what I do. So, but other than that, it has been a little weird not being able to get groceries when I need to. I'm used to ordering every couple of days, and Instacart and HEB don't deliver more than 2 weeks out. So, but yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. Well, rock on, man.
Yeah.
Let's see.
How's yours?
Well, I am newly unemployed due to this whole thing.
Oh,
but
wow.
that is, yeah, it's one of those things. But it's enabled me to focus on my own personal projects, which is awesome.
Right.
Finally rebooted my old podcast and got new stuff recorded for my channel. So I'm excited about it.
Good.
Hopefully that'll be something that I can continue as I find a part-time job and go from there. But that said, this is the highlight of my week, man. Are you ready to hop into calls?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Do you have anyone in particular you want to talk to?
No, they all look kind of good.
No? Okay. Well, let's start with Carlos in California. Carlos, you're live with Eric and Jim. What do you want to talk about today?
Hi, Eric and Jim. How you guys doing?
Oh, good. How you doing?
Trying to stay safe, my man.
Doing well. Doing well. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to reason together this topic. I appreciate it. How would you like me to start? How is the structure of the show?
Sure. So you're the one who brings up what you want to talk about, and we try and meet you where you're at, and then talk to you about it and see if we agree on your reasoning and how you got there. So what specifically did you want to talk about today?
Well, I would like to talk about the Bible. I don't know if you guys have a Bible available in the show so we can open it up for debate.
So question, why should we?
Why the Bible?
Well, why should we open the Bible?
The only thing I ask is I'm not cursing at you guys. Don't curse back at me. When I called, the guy told me to be reasonable and kind, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm not cursing at you.
Did I curse?
No one's cursed at you. No one's cursed at you yet, sir.
Okay, perfect. Well, if you allow me, if you look at the Bible on Genesis 5,
no,
there is a There is a meaning behind the name in the genealogy of Adam.
Carlos,
and I would like you guys to, yes, sir.
Hey, bud. So I'll do my best not to cuss out of personal respect, but it is my show, so we'll do it. It is our show, so we'll do it if we see fit. But why open the Bible? Why should we do that? Is there something?
My understanding is that you guys believe that there is no God. I believe there is a God, and I would like you to open the Bible, and I will show you that there is a God.
So
no, that's not my position at all.
So how would you like me to prove that there is a God? If you put the Bible on, if you put the Bible on trial, shouldn't you, a fair trial, have the Bible open for debate?
No.
Well, first you have to prove that the Bible is relevant to the topic. And when
Yeah.
I have read the Bible, what I have found is that neither creation story in the Bible is scientifically accurate. Noah's flood is not scientifically accurate. There is absolutely zero evidence for it. There is the Israeli archaeologists and Egyptian archaeologists agree that Israelites were never in Egypt and anywhere near the numbers, if at all, during any of the time periods that they were supposed to be in Egypt. I mean, it seems to fail on a number of very, very important topics based on everything we know about the world today. So why should we take the Bible seriously at all, given the huge amounts of flaws in those stories that are supposed to prove that Jesus Christ existed, which is the whole purpose of the Bible, not to be how to be a Christian. So why should we take the Bible seriously?
Well, that's the thing. The Bible was written in a way that the intellect doesn't quite comprehend. And you know what? I was also one of them. I was a philosopher.
That is a pretty big claim, that the intellect does not comprehend it. Can you explain that?
It's not my claim. It's not my claim. It's Christ's claim. Give me one verse, and if I show you in one verse that there's things that you guys have not seen, then I will. You guys win. But just give me one verse. That's all I ask.
Sure. So what I'm going to say in response to that is, you can read anything into any book of literature. I can pull out a book of fiction that we both agree is fiction and find something useful to it. I don't see that as a useful test.
If you give me one verse, I will show you that there is something you have not seen.
Did you hear what I just said?
If not, then the whole audience will think I'm crazy, right? And you're right.
No.
But if I'm right,
did you hear what I just said, Carlos? Did you hear what I just said?
So how can I? This is the thing. You want me to prove there is a God, but you don't allow me to open the Bible to prove you that there is a God. You want me to show you that there is a God based on creation.
No, Carlos. I just gave you a response. Answer it.
What is your question?
Okay, listen this time. I said I can pull out any book of fiction that you and I both agree is fiction and find something useful in it. And so if you're going to try and find meaning out of a passage of the Bible, but you can do that with literally any book, I don't see any use to your test.
Are you finished?
Yes. Do you have a response?
Okay. Yes, I do. You started your question. You're saying if we both agree it's fiction. I don't agree it's fiction. So we have a disagreement. And that's what you just said. If we both agree it's fiction. I don't agree it's fiction.
Carlos, I'm talking about books of fiction. Harry Potter. Do you think Harry Potter is true?
No.
Okay. Can we both agree that it's fiction?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that I can pull out a verse from Harry Potter and try and make it sound useful, or I can find use in passages out of that book?
No.
No. You think the Bible is the only one that does that?
Yes.
So Harry Potter, when at the very end, when he sacrifices himself for his friends, and that's not useful as an example of noble sacrifice?
You want me to talk about Harry Potter, but you guys want to open the Bible and give me the chance to open one verse?
You know what, Eric? I'm willing to give him. Let's see where he goes.
Not yet. No, not yet.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, not yet, Carlos. So here's the thing, dude. I see them as on the same footing, right?
Okay.
What I'm asking you is to justify the difference between Harry Potter and the Bible. And so far your answer has been because the Bible's the only book that you can find use out of any passages from. Jim's response to you was, here's something that happened in Harry Potter that has moral ethical value or a demonstration of something that you can find useful. Your response was, you're not letting me read the Bible. Do you understand how that is completely sidestepping and not responding to what he said?
I will respond to your question, sir. The Bible is written in a way that it unfolds itself. So the Old Testament unfolds in the New Testament. The New Testament unfolds in the times that we're living now. That's why the Bible, you can check it with like facts, with events that happen, with events that are relevant to our lives, and you can check it with the Bible how it got developed. And that's why the Bible, like any other books. Yes, sir.
I've done that. I'm sure Eric has done that. But when I did that, when I saw the passage that said, "Oh, hey, if somebody steals a cow from you, then he has to repay it with 5 cows," and I was like, "Okay, that makes sense." But then the Bible says something very, very heinous. It says, if he can't afford the 5 cows, sell him into slavery. No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to debate what version of slavery what it is, because both chattel slavery and indentured servitude are both evil. There's reasons why both those things have been outlawed as unethical. So no, there are I could pick any book and find good things and bad things in them, but I can ignore the bad things. The Bible? Yes, twice.
Have you read the Bible?
Twice.
And then let me ask you this. Okay, and let me ask you this: how many kingdoms are the Bible describes?
I don't know, and I don't care.
Well, there was 2 kingdoms, right? If the kingdom of this world and the kingdom of above.
You are so full of shit.
In the Bible.
No.
Again, you keep coming back to the Bible, but you haven't proven that the Bible is worth reading.
Because you don't want to open it. You're not open to it.
Okay.
I heard you one verse. I heard about you Harry Potter. Yeah. Give me one verse. Give me one verse.
You haven't given a justification to why we should care. I don't want to waste your time. As much as you don't want to waste ours. Right? So if you're wasting your time, then there's no point. If the justification you've given isn't good enough, then there's no reason to.
Okay.
And by the way, there are many kingdoms in the Bible. The whole Old Testament is a justification of a tribe trying to justify the murder and enslavement and genocide that they committed to get their Holy Land. There are lots of kingdoms in the Bible. I mean, even Jesus said, "Give unto Caesar that which is Caesar." Do you think they're not referencing a kingdom? No, you're just talking about one very specific thing, dude, and that's okay. But don't talk down to us as if we don't understand, right?
Sir,
King Nebuchadnezzar.
I have not used foul language to you. You are the ones doing that to me. You guys tell me you guys speak slavery. You guys speak Harry Potter, and I listen and I listen to what you guys say. But if you guys want to put God on trial, then you guys should be open to whoever comes and say, okay, if you want to use Harry Potter and you want to use slavery scripture, then also give me the chance to show you a scripture that will open your eyes. And if I'm wrong, your audience will think that I'm wrong and you guys win. But if I'm right, then we can maybe both come to an understanding. That's all I'm saying.
So go for it. We're going to hear it and we'll show you what we mean. I didn't want to waste your time, but obviously you're not there. So go for it, man.
Okay. In Genesis 5, there's a genealogy, okay? And back in the day, in Judea, in Israel, back in the day, each name had a meaning. So each of those names has a secret meaning. And for instance, I will tell you, Adam means man, Seth means appointed, Enoch means mortal, Canaan means sorrow, Mahalalel means the blessed God, Jared means shall come down, Enoch means teachings, Methuselah means his death shall bring, Lamech means the despairing, Noah means comfort. If we put that together, it reads, man has appointed mortal sorrow. The blessed God shall come down teaching. His death shall bring the despairing comfort. Now, in the Torah, if we read the Torah, if we go deeper, if we really want to know who God is, then it describes who this Noah is. It says, this one will provide us relief from our work and from the toil of our hand and of the very soil which the Lord placed under a curse. So right there in the Torah, the own Jew people they reject the Messiah. But in Genesis, in the verse 5, right there, it gives you the whole plan of salvation. Men, when they chose to hear the lies of Satan, appointed death to themselves. But then the God will come as a flesh.
Yeah, I've heard enough. I'd like to respond. I've heard enough. I'd like to respond.
Go for it, Jim.
So first of all, I can do the exact same hermeneutic. I think I'm using the right word. The exact same textual analysis you just did on a number of books who use old names that don't have any more value to them than the Bible does. So I don't care that you just did that textual analysis, because it doesn't mean anything, because it's just a book. You haven't demonstrated that the book is special, or that the book should be treated with any more reverence than any other book that I pick up. And that's the problem. So the rest of it, I don't care about, because you haven't demonstrated the value of the Bible being anything more than a badly written anthology about a really bad antagonist. That's all you've done.
Okay, I understand. Now let me ask you: does Harry Potter foretells the future, how it will unfold in real life?
Neither does the Bible.
Or the Simpsons, does.
Yeah.
Which of them?
The Bible doesn't either.
I'd like to jump in here really quick.
Oh yes, the Bible does. You know, look, guys.
Carlos.
I didn't
Carlos.
come here to argue with.
Carlos.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
Hi.
So you were using exegesis and hermeneutics, is that correct?
I was using what, sorry?
Exegesis and hermeneutics.
I don't know what that means.
Okay. So hermeneutics is the study of the original texts of a thing. And as you study more about it, you learn, and then you plug back in so you can learn more, right? Let me give you an example. I need to come up with a one that's different, but I keep going to Spider-Man, right? Do you know Spider-Man, the comic book?
Yeah, I read. I haven't seen Spider-Man in a long time, but go ahead with your analogy.
That's okay, no worries. He lives in New York, right? I can pull out comics from the 70s of Spider-Man, and I can apply hermeneutics. And as I'm doing that, even though Spider-Man doesn't exist, what I can do is I can see how they're talking to each other and what's going on in the background, what's on posters, what kind of music, what's the style, and this and that. And then as I'm learning, oh, hey, this word means this, I can go back in and learn more, right? I'm plugging back in my knowledge as I'm learning about it. So even though I'm studying a book of fiction, I can walk away with it having an understanding of what the actual culture in the United States was at that time. That's hermeneutics.
And what did you learn? What did you learn useful from Spider-Man in your life that you apply?
With great power, with great power comes with great responsibility.
Hold on. What does that matter?
Because you just said you just put the Bible next to Spider-Man. The Bible gives you life. Spider-Man is a fiction show. You just say it's a fiction show. So my question is, what did you get from Spider-Man?
So.
I want you to follow me because we're getting off topic here, and I want you to follow me very closely.
I am.
No, you're changing the subject here, and I'm trying to make a point. The point is, you can use hermeneutics to understand a culture. You cannot use hermeneutics to justify saying that Spider-Man existed in the real world. So it is a tool that has use, but not the use.
I don't know what hermeneutics means. I don't understand. I don't think most of the viewers.
I just explained it to you. I just gave you a full description.
Can you explain it again?
Sure. What's another comic that takes place in the real world? Somebody help me.
Actually, you'd probably just pick like Harry Dresden.
Dresden Files.
Dresden Files. Thank you.
Somebody said The Simpsons. That's fine. Yeah, Simpsons, right? Small town USA. I can look at episodes of The Simpsons from the 90s and learn about the culture in the United States from things that are referenced in The Simpsons, right? I can look at that. Well, that's a video format, but I can look at writings from specific times and be able to pull out actual information that is useful and helpful. From the Bible, you can use hermeneutics to understand the culture of the time, the way people talked, what they valued, how their moral and ethical system is different from the one that we have, how they treated each other, and the way that they set those things up. Those genealogies were important to them at the time, and that's why they listed it out. Right?
But that's the difference, my friend. That's the difference. You think that the Bible was written for certain people. The Bible was written for whole humanity. I mean, how do you know that? What do you guys believe? So what do you guys believe you guys came from? What's your answer?
Do I have to have an answer to tell you that you're wrong?
Excuse me?
Do I have to have an answer to tell you that you're wrong?
No, I'm not wrong. So I'm asking you, where do you come from?
I asked you a question. Try listening a little harder. Do I have to have an answer to tell you that you're wrong?
You're wrong about what?
So your response was, give me a better response, right? Your response was, give me your explanation. I don't have to. Have you heard the gumball analogy?
So you guys believe that you just
Have you heard the gumball analogy? Have you heard the gumball analogy?
Don't yell at me, sir. I'm talking to you respectfully. Why can't you talk to me with respect?
So I respect you as a person.
Is that how you treat your callers that disagree with you? You guys disagree with me. I treat you with very much respect. Why do you guys raise your voice at me?
Carlos.
Yes?
If you don't like it, hang up. Otherwise, respond. Do you know, have you heard the gumball?
The gumball? No, I haven't heard the gumball.
Jim, do you want to give him the gumball analogy or something?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Proves the same point. Sure.
What is the gumball analogy?
So let's say you and Jim are sitting in a room together and I walk in with a jar of gumballs. You know that Jim has never seen them and you know that you've never seen them, right? So I lay that jar of gumballs, set it on the table, and I say, both of you guys, how many gumballs are in the jar? Is the number even or odd? Right. Well, and Jim pops in and he goes, it's even. I know that for a fact. Well, Carlos, you know that he's never seen that jar of gumballs. So do you agree with him?
So that's even? How do we create it?
Do you agree with him that it is even?
You're not answering my question. My question is, why you guys make a show and you get, you make a living. I don't know if you guys make a living out of this. Claiming
that it all goes to charity.
So then my question to you guys, what is your foundation? Where do you guys come from? Can you guys explain it to me? If we look at the sky, we look at the stars, there's life nowhere, right?
You're waiting.
There's only life in this planet. Why is that? Can you answer that?
Be on hold if you don't stop. We're going to try this one more time. Did you hear what I said about the gumball analogy? I asked you a question and you responded with something that is not related.
If you have a gamble and somebody takes a number and it's even, do I agree if it's even? That's your question?
Yes. I set down a jar of gumball. No, my question is, what is your response to Jim? Jim looks at the jar and says it's an even number in there. Do you agree with him that it's an even number in there?
I'll be like, let's find out. Let's look at how many jumbles there are. Let's put it on the table. Let's reason together. That's what I would say.
I think that's a wonderful response. I'd love for you to respond to the question too. Do you agree with Jim that it is an even number? Yes or no?
I agree that he believes it's an even number, but I cannot tell you factually if it's an even number if I don't see it on the table.
Agreed. So let's say you're unable to open the jar. You have no idea. Do you agree with Jim that it's even or odd? Or that it's even?
I agree that he believes, but I cannot.
I don't care what he believes. I'm asking about you. Do you agree with Jim?
No, because I have not verified.
Okay, so you're saying that it's odd.
I'm not saying it's odd. I say I have not verified it.
Oh, so hold on a second. You don't agree with Jim, right? And you also don't have to have your own opinion, right? Why do you disagree with Jim?
It's even. But for me to verify it's even, I need to put it on the table and count it. How many evens there are or not. And then we can count together.
I agree.
It's like the Bible.
Yeah, Carlos.
When you say false, I'll tell you open it and let's debate.
No, Carlos, we agree that the best way to do it is to actually have evidence. And that just because I say that it is even and you disagree, you don't have to prove that it's odd to disagree with my conclusion that it's even. We agree with those things. The same thing happens when you're making your claim with the God. The difference is on anything you're going to ask us, where we came from, ultimate meaning and all that, we're going to say where we came from. Ultimately, the Big Bang is the best explanation. Anything past that, we don't know. And you're going to go, God did it. Well, no, that's not an acceptable answer. Just because we don't have an answer doesn't mean you get to claim God. Just because we assign value to our lives doesn't mean God assigned value to our lives. That's where we're coming from. The skeptical position is to say, and the most honest answer you can give in so many cases is, I don't know. And honestly, that's the hardest thing about being an atheist, is to say those 3 words. Well, 4 words technically. I do not know. We don't get to run to God.
You believe that intelligence doesn't come from a source, right? Like, if you look at your body, you're perfectly made, right? You have a brain,
No, I'm not.
arms, you have legs.
Dude, I'm wearing glasses, and so is Eric. We're not perfectly made. I have attention deficit disorder. My brain is not perfectly made. Well, it is for me, but everyone else thinks so. But we're not perfectly made in any shape, way, shape, or form.
There are animals that have better eyes than us. There are animals that have.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you. If you believe that there's no God and we came from stardust, right? So then,
no.
What makes your life?
You should ask us what we believe. No, Carlos, stop. I want to stop you right there. You're straw manning us. You haven't asked us what we believe on those topics.
But you just told me you believe we come from the Big Bang, didn't you?
That's the ultimate source, yes, but that's not stardust. So before you start straw manning us, make sure you understand our position.
Look, guys, I'm not calling here to argue with you. I'm not going to convince anybody if you guys don't want to listen. You know, I'm just trying. I really sincerely care for you guys. And I'm not here to prove my point. I'm not here to say I'm right. I'm just here to share truth. That's all.
Okay. Well,
but you haven't shared a truth with us yet that we don't already, that we're willing to accept as true.
To me, sir. Explain to me, dear sir, what do you believe in?
Doesn't matter.
On what topic?
On life. So we believe that you just, boom, randomly come here with and everything in the universe is just made out of just luck?
It's made out of what?
So Carlos, let's say,
like randomly you fell on this place. Like you randomly.
No, not random.
Food, okay, so then who if it's not random, then somebody ordained it, right?
No. See, this is what you didn't hear what I said, Carlos. You didn't hear what I said. We say, I don't know, you're jumping to God. You can't jump to God without evidence. The most you can say is, I don't know. You can't jump to God.
What are you telling me what I should say? I don't tell you what you should say.
Because that is logical and rational. You have to have a reason. You have to have evidence for your position.
My friend, I'm telling you the reason. If you were to open the Bible, you will see that everything that was told, it fulfills. Look, at the end of this conversation, I'm gonna put a comment, okay? And in that comment, there's gonna be a few links. And if you guys want to look at those links, you're more than welcome. And I can call next Sunday if you allow me, and then we can have a beautiful debate. I didn't call you guys to put you down.
Can I ask you a serious question real quick?
Yeah,
Eric has been doing this for a number of years. I've been doing this for a number of years, not on Talk Heathen or shows, but personally. Do you honestly think that there is a prophecy you can come up with in the Bible that Eric or I haven't already looked at and dismissed as being accurate?
Yes, my friend, I do.
You
know, can I share it with you? Just give me.
No. I think you just want to preach, and you're clearly not listening.
Carlos is
not having a conversation.
Now out of session. Dude, last question. Could you be wrong? Is there a chance? Is there anything we could tell you that could persuade you?
Absolutely not, because I found the truth, guys.
Bye-bye.
That's the difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was Carlos.
Right. And also, Eric, I think you and I have both forgotten, and the callers don't know, that there is more delay in our talking than normal. And we were talking over each other, not because we were being rude, but because of the delays. So we also need to keep that in mind, because it's more than we're used to.
Absolutely.
And callers, I know you're listening as well. Keep that in mind as well, is that we will talk over each other probably more than we're used to, simply because of the added delays. So let's be a little bit more patient on the talking over.
Cheers.
But yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to Mark in North Carolina. Mark, you're live with Eric and Jim. What would you like to talk about today?
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Hey.
Hey.
Well, what would you like to talk about today?
Well, I had a question on how I've heard you and other atheists state that we cannot be absolutely certain about anything.
Mhm.
And I have a reasoning that not only that we can, but in some cases we should.
Okay. Lay it on us.
Okay, so I have two examples. I kind of like to share with you guys.
Sure, hit us with your best.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Oh, I said hit us with your best. Let's do the best first.
Oh, all right. So, I know I'm on a phone call. You can't see me right now, but I'm holding a little doggy chew toy in my hand. Okay. I can see it. I can feel it. I can interact with it. I'm having this experience of it, tossing it up, up in the air and catching it again. I can drop it and it falls in a predictive manner that deals with all the other evidence that I've seen of things falling. So why should I not, one, be absolutely certain that I exist because I'm experiencing these things, but also that, I'm at where I'm at and this ball is in my hand?
So I'm not going to argue cogito ergo sum with you that you exist, but I will say,
Okay.
how did you get out of the problem of hard solipsism? How do you know that you can trust your sense perceptions?
How can I know I can trust my sense perceptions? Because these are the only perceptions of experience that I have at all.
In
order to not trust them, if I do not trust them, then just evolutionary wise, there's a higher chance that I could die if I do not trust my senses.
But that's just an appeal to consequent. That doesn't justify, that's not a good reason to have it. I'll give you an example. You could be in the Matrix and not have any way to test whether or not you're in the Matrix, right? To say that you have absolute certainty, what I call capital T truth, would, in my mind, have eliminated that possibility. And I don't know how we get past that. And so the question that I have is, how do you know that you're not just hooked up to the Matrix?
Okay. Well, my response to that is, okay, my certainty should be based on the evidence I do have and not the evidence I don't. So let me ask you a couple questions. Is there any evidence that we are living in a matrix?
Would there be any evidence if we lived in a perfect matrix? And the answer to that is no, there would not be any evidence if we lived in a perfect matrix. The only way we'd find evidence is if the matrix wasn't perfect in some way. So, and that was kind of the whole point of the Matrix movie, right? Was how do you know we're not living in that matrix and in that perfectly recreated sensory input world of the Matrix? And so we can't actually know whether or not we are or are not in the Matrix. If it's perfect, if it's not perfect, we look for the flaws.
Right. Okay. So, so here we have, this is how I see it in my mind. Here we have a concept that, one, has no evidence that it's true, and two, has no way of even able to obtain evidence that it's true. So why should I allow a concept like that to decrease my certainty in the evidence that I do have?
Because my understanding of absolute certainty, now it might be different for you, and we might just be talking past each other with definitions, but my understanding of absolute certainty would take that into account, would be able to say, you're absolutely certain that you are in this place experiencing this thing. The response that, how can you trust your sense perceptions, is why I think that ultimately that capital T truth statement, that absolute certainty, is not only unnecessary but impossible to have in many cases. I think that there are things we can be absolutely certain about and can make deductive arguments about, and those are things that we define to be true. But when we're not talking about things that we have definitions for and are working with them as a definition, you're using an induction, and it's actually called the problem of induction. We can't get there. Because of that, I would say that setting your sights on saying that you can have absolute certainty. We can aspire to it.
About some things. I'm not saying we should have absolute certainty about everything.
Right. So
But
you gave us an
there
example
are,
I think that we cannot have absolute certainty about. Like, how can I have absolute certainty that any of you are there? How can you have absolute certainty that we're not a part of some bigger, figment of your imagination? How do you know that you're not just the only one in the matrix and we're all just constructs? You can't.
just from my own experience with interacting with people, from the evidence of other history, of other people that has lived and died in the world, through my family and my children. I mean, these are all evidence that I have that I am not alone, that I am sharing this reality with them.
I'm sure
both in the present and the past.
I'm sure you
and
can
we
go ahead, Jim.
yeah, and we completely agree with that. The question becomes that we have is any of that actually really real, right? Because
We have no,
if I can wire
and
your brain to sense things.
I mean, that's kind of my reasoning, is that we have no evidence to the contrary. The living in matrix, brain in a jar, any other kind of that kind of reasoning. There's what we have evidence for is what we are experiencing. That is the only evidence we have.
Yes.
So shouldn't our certainty be based on that evidence and not be decreased on things that not only we cannot prove, but are in fact improvable?
Yeah. What we're arguing about is 100% certainty versus 99.999. And I don't, some of that is philosophical, talking about things, and we have to live our life as if everything we are experiencing is real because we have no other choice. But by the same token, to make that 100% isn't entirely accurate. So you live your life as if it's 100%, but you can also acknowledge that it's not 100%. It's 99.99, whatever you want to say it is. Yeah. And so that's kind of what we're talking about, the difference between, I think, from what you're saying. But I completely agree with you that we have to live our lives as if we have that degree of certainty, as if the sun will come up tomorrow, not just because it came up yesterday, but also because that's what the laws of physics say.
I can actually make a case
Right.
for you as to why that's better. So long as we aren't entirely certain about a thing, we're open to being wrong. If I were to provide evidence that was convincing to something that you thought was absolutely true, if you're sitting on that as an absolute fact, it's very hard to move away from. But when you're faced with evidence, and you reapply your understanding, I think that there's serious value in saying, I'm not entirely certain about anything. I think that is part of this amazing, human experience that guides us toward innovation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's awesome.
Okay, that part makes sense. That part makes sense to me.
That part, though, is not entirely
so
related to whether or not the statement is true. I'm making a case for why it's a good thing, but I'm not necessarily making a case for it being true. I'm just saying that there is value there.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I'm a realist, so I accept the evidence that I'm given and deal with it as best as I can.
Mm-hmm.
So what you kind of said makes a little more sense to me. So it's not like if I said I'm absolutely certain about something, I am also absolutely closed to anything else or that changing with new evidence. I'm just saying that with the evidence we have, we can be absolutely certain about some things.
Is it that hard to say I'm 99.99 bar certain? Over
For
100?
some things, well, for some things, for me, yes.
Like what? 'Cause you gave us an example, and we didn't
well,
agree with your example about the dog toy.
Okay, so my other example has to do with something about as serious as reality gets. So
Okay.
here's something real serious and personal. 2 weeks ago, on March 16th, my mother died of a sudden heart attack.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
So,
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. With all of the evidence that I have and the experience that I have with life and death, I know that I will never see her living face again. I'll never be able to hug her. You know, I'll never be able to look at her and tell her that I love her again. Okay? So why should I not be absolutely certain about those things?
So I think that the difference between degrees of certainty that we're talking about and behaving as though you are certain, I think that we're starting to get into semantics there. Because we're not going to disagree with you on basic things that, you know, we understand. What I'm saying is that to say you have absolute certainty about most things is taking it just a step further than we're capable of taking it. Right. So
I never said we should have absolute certainty. I never said we should have absolute certainty about most things. I said we can and we should have absolute certainty about some things.
Right. Can I give you an example of one that we can have absolute certainty about?
Sure.
Unmarried bachelors.
Yes, logical.
All bachelors being unmarried. And we can have absolute certainty about it because we defined it that way. Right.
Yes. I am absolutely certain that right now we are having a conversation about absolute certainty.
Yeah,
that's where I disagree. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm 99.99999% certain that there is somebody else on the other end of this call, and that the images of Eric and your voice are actually real and not just figments of my imagination. But I cannot rule out that somebody with sufficient technology couldn't have hooked me up to a machine, or far more realistically, that I'm not having a hallucination. Because we know people who have defects in the brain that will convince them 100% that there's somebody else in the room and there is nobody there. And it doesn't even have to be defects in the brain. Sailors who single-hand sailing often experience hallucinations that they believe are real and do real things like set sails. And yet there's nobody on the boat, and the only person on the boat who could have set that sail was them. But they will swear to you it was their phantom. That's just basic brain, the way the brain works. So, or it doesn't work in the case of people who have that mental illness. So how do you know that your grandmother actually existed and that she wasn't just a group hallucination?
Because all the other evidence of people who have ever interacted with her.
Right, but group people do have.
Yeah,
people do have group hallucinations, though.
So
yeah, you see what you see when we start looking at that.
So group hallucinations can exist, but through interactions of people and things and everything else that we experience in reality, I can be absolutely certain that she did exist, as I remember her, as well as at least as I mostly remember her, because our memories can be shoddy, right? But I can be absolutely certain that she did exist and that she is dead due to the evidence that I do have.
Right, and people have convinced themselves that they remember things that never happened.
We're not.
That is true.
Yeah, I really feel like this is starting to become.
I'm not talking so much about specific. I'm not talking about so much about specific memories or very, very specific experiences. Just the experience that, you know, she lived, she was my mother, and she's now gone. That is what I think I could be and should be absolutely certain about.
I'm just saying that absolute certainty can't be proven. And maybe we just are using different definitions.
Yeah.
But I think we're talking in circles a little bit. I think this has been a good conversation, though.
Yeah.
I'm glad you called in.
Lots of fun.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, guys. It was great talking to you again, Eric. I appreciate you taking my call.
Absolutely. Take care, brother. Be safe out there, all right?
Yep, you too.
Take it easy.
All right, bye.
All right. So we do have a few lines open, and I want to put the call out there. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 atheist callers. We still have room because we're using a new program. But holy crap, thank you, atheist callers. We want religious callers as well. If you are a religious person, if you are a theist, you want to call in, you can call 512-991-9242. That's 512-991-9242. Who'd you like to talk to next, Jim?
Um,
How about Zach?
yeah, Zach sounds interesting.
Sounds good. Let's talk to Zach in Ohio. Zach, you're live with Eric and Jim. What would you like to talk about today?
Hey, Eric. Hey, Jim. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, doing all right. What's good, brother? What would you like to talk about?
So I have a little brother. He turned 8 in February. And recently I've started to notice that my family are sort of trying to feed that belief. You know, they started, you know, saying prayers at dinner more often, and they take him to church like once a month. And I'm a non-believer, as the screener probably showed you, and my apostasy is something that's like really important to me. I'm a member of the Satanic Temple, and I like to do a lot of epistemology stuff, and I really like Freedom from Religion, what they do.
Definitely.
And I was just wondering sort of what path is probably best as far as like intercepting that, or if it's like a Santa Claus thing where I should let it play out and tackle it later.
So I think first off, I've really got to put out there and make sure that we're on the same page here. That you ultimately, I think that the best conversation is going to be one that you have with a therapist who can take all of the different things that are going on with your family situation in particular and be able to plug that into a plan that's a little more tailored to you. So just so you know, we're not professionals. We're going to give you our lay advice, but that will never take the place of professional help, and we definitely recommend that before calling us. But that said, now that that's kind of out of the way.
The disclaimer's on there, yeah.
Yeah, okay, you got the disclaimer. What I would be wary of is, you said it's your nephew?
It's my little brother.
Your little brother. Okay. What's your age? What's the age difference here?
I'm 18. He turned 8 in February.
Okay. It's going to take a lot of time. And I know that when I was 18, I was learning a whole lot. And I actually have the same difference between myself and one of my brothers. Being a big brother, you do have a lot of influence. And it doesn't all have to be now. What I recommend is you don't have to, be angry. You don't have to be shoving it down their throats. And more knowledge about things is better. Instead of intercepting, show them other religions. And it doesn't all have to be today. Over the next couple of years, if you continue to teach, to show and reinforce each other, as you continue to reinforce good epistemic reasoning, he'll benefit from it in the long run. But what I see too often is people wanting to change everything right now, fix the problem right now. And if you do that, you run the risk of alienating yourself from your family. and that can be really rough. So I do seriously recommend taking your time on it.
Yeah, and don't focus so much on the arguments as giving him the tools to reason it out himself. Because he's still learning. And if you directly contradict him, you're gonna
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, if you directly contradict him, you're going to, of course, backfire it. So street epistemology techniques would probably be really, really good and far more gentle than you see even the street epistemologist do it, because you're dealing with it with an 8-year-old, attention spans, all the rest of it. But I would focus on giving him the tools and really, really gentle street epistemology. And keep in mind, I think street epistemology is very gentle in and of itself, but just taking it even slower and with more focus on him.
See, I actually disagree
Right.
with a little bit of that, Jim.
Okay.
When I read a manual for creating Atheists by Boghossian, it didn't have the gentle approach that I think Anthony Magnabosco brought to it. I think that there's so much injected by Anthony into that sweet, kind, approach, that I wouldn't say that it's inherently a part of street epistemology, but it's something that we've grown into.
Yes, I was not being as pedantic as I normally am. I would agree with that. The street epistemology is demonstrated by, I think it's Ty who does Let's Chat, Anthony Magnabosco for sure, and from a place of conversations, which is where they come from. And if you follow the manual, yeah, it's a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, follow the way of the YouTube, definitely. So yeah, I agree with you there, Eric.
But that said, hopefully that helps.
It does. I mean, it is something that I'm trying to, sort of wean him onto, like look at his surroundings and sort of make judgments from there. I guess for the biggest thing for me, it's probably just a matter of like fighting outside forces, because while I'm trying to teach logic to an 8-year-old, they can easily, point to the sky and just say, this is the way it is. And he listens to them because they're his parents.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the thing is, by sheltering him, you are possibly setting him up to be taken in later. But by teaching him and growing and giving him good tools, he may not get there right now, but you definitely do give him the opportunity to apply those tools when you're not around.
Right. A big thing for me leaving the religion was just I felt kind of betrayed to a point, kind of like lied to. And it's something that I want to nip in the bud. I want to stop as soon as possible because I don't want him to feel that way too. But I understand that, him still learning and figuring things out, definitely he's not able to really, compare and contrast those two, modes of epistemology and sort of, take the one that makes more sense, or he's not equipped to handle complex stuff like that.
Not right now, but he will grow up. And you can't shelter him from the pains of this world. Not like that. I wish that you could. Actually, John Pelosi in the live chat had a perfect response. Each child is a hero's journey. You just help like Yoda.
Well said. Well said.
Don't prevent him from going on that journey, but teach and guide. Anyway. Hopefully that helps, man. We're going to move on to the next call, but be safe out there, all right?
You guys as well. I'm glad you guys were still able to do this.
We are incredibly lucky to have the amazing volunteers that we have. Thank you. Thank you for sticking around.
Hey, keep safe. Love you guys.
Love you too. Oh, yay. All right.
Oh, there's a theist caller.
There is a theist caller, but before we take them, actually, no, we'll take them and I'll pull up the Patreon after that. We do have a good number of callers. But in the meantime, let's talk to T.E. in Chicago, Illinois. T.E., you're live with Eric and Jim. How are you doing today? What would you like to talk about?
I'm doing okay. How are you guys? I want to talk about the idea of separation of church and state. Do you guys, what is your guys' take on the Bible in the classroom?
Sure.
As a religious text or as a historical or my brain is failing me. Just as a reading text, literature. In what context?
Either or, it doesn't.
Well, it does.
I don't think it really matters.
I think it does matter, actually. If you're studying world religions, it's important to have an idea of cultures, and I think that religion is something that is very, very tied to culture and identity, and that's fine. But if you have a government that is teaching this religion is true, then you're setting up an unfair system. Because what's to stop someone from saying, okay, well, you should also teach that the Quran is true?
Well, I'm saying from a governmental perspective, like, does the government restrict the teaching of the Bible in the classroom?
Right.
Public schools.
Absolutely. Does the government restrict the teaching of the Quran in the classroom? Maybe we have different definitions.
No, I don't believe it does.
Okay, then
No.
It doesn't restrict the Bible either.
Right. In the sense that you cannot have a class on religion. So you can't have a Christian class that uses the Bible. You can't have a Islamic class that teaches the Quran, but you can teach either of those books as literature or history of religions or anything else, but not as a religion.
The reason why I asked the question is, I think I'm sorry, did you say something?
No, go ahead.
I spoke over you because there's a bit of a delay. I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, because I was saying most atheists, they take the stance of separation of church and state, that the government can't promote any sort of material that has religious paraphernalia attached to it. So that's why I'm asking you guys. I mean, I would agree from maybe if you're in college or something and you want to take, religious studies, that's sort of different than public schools having the Bible. So you would think that that's acceptable?
Well, what happens with a lot of organizations who are trying to get the Bible into schools under a wide variety of covers is that they're also trying to push Christianity. You don't see secular organizations pushing the Bible in to the public schools. You only see religious institutions and religious organizations, and in my experience, you only see those pushing the Bible, which means that they're trying to color it as in we're using this for secular purposes and then actually using it for religious purposes. And that's kind of where the problem comes in. It's, from my point of view, I can't speak for all atheists, I can only speak for myself. From my point of view, anytime I see a religious organization pushing the Bible into the school, I have zero trust in that organization keeping to the Constitution and keeping the religion out of public schools. They have no interest in doing that.
If you want to know whether or not it's fair, just take that application and apply it to someone you don't agree with. Right? If it is if it's equally handled both for you and someone you don't agree with, it's more likely fair. So if you don't mind the Quran being taught as true, and you also want the Bible taught as true, I'm guessing you probably wouldn't agree that that's a good idea.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that in the First Amendment, I see no restriction in having the Bible or the Quran in the public classroom. And so what I'm trying to understand is, like, so you guys are saying it's acceptable if it's under the guise of a secular agenda? Is that what you're trying to say, Jim?
Hold on. Secular
essentially.
I feel like there's a lot of weird things tied into there. Do you know what secular is?
Yes, it means something that is without religious or spiritual basis.
Okay. So medicine, Western medicine is secular, right? You go to the doctor.
Okay.
They don't say open the Bible to learn about medicine. There are tons of professions, right? Mathematics is secular.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm failing to see the connection. I see, when I look at the Constitution, I see restrictions and permissions granted by the government, but nothing that says secular attached to it. The word secular doesn't exist in the Constitution.
I understand, which is why what we're doing is we're trying to keep this conversation in a place that is useful. Because if you want to argue about the Constitution, I think that we have taken the conversation to where we're no longer talking about fairness. And I really do think that the conversation about fairness and equity and is the important conversation to have. Right.
Right. But what I'm
so that said, let's agree on whether or not, we have an ideal that we share and then apply it and determine whether or not our view of the government should change or not. Because I don't think that just because it's in the Constitution or not in the Constitution, it's necessarily good or just. Right? We can disagree with the Constitution and we can make amendments to it. We have. So what's more important to me is what you think. We want to know what you think and why you think it that way.
Well, I think I'm looking at it from the perspective of American history. And so what I'm trying to say is that, a lot of atheist organizations that I see, they tend to use this idea of separation of church and state to keep the Bible out of the classroom. And so from my perspective of looking at the Declaration of Independence, I look at the Constitution, this idea of secular doesn't seem to exist anywhere in there.
Sure.
And so what I'm trying to understand is, where is it that you guys take that? You guys say that the Bible shouldn't be in the classroom unless secular is attached to it, or you just
got it?
No,
have a completely different take on separation of church and state other than the Constitution. You don't.
Okay. Do you agree with Sharia law?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you think that God's law, Christian law, should be the law of the United States?
I believe that it has been since the founding of this country. The Christian way of thinking has been.
Okay. Please tell me how that is different from Sharia.
I'm not talking about Sharia law. I'm talking about historical fact. That's all.
I don't care. I'm determining whether or not you understand that what you're promoting is the same basis that people would promote Sharia law.
But you should care because that's not what the topic was that I came in here with.
So
I'm talking about Sharia law.
Yeah, I'm talking about fairness and equity here. I already said that.
So all I'm trying to say when I came in is talking about separation of church and state is in the Declaration of Independence. It says that we
follow me for just a second. Follow me for just a second, and you'll see it guide back. I'm on this conversation, but you need to follow here, please.
Okay.
How is your advocating the government taking on or having always been Christian? How is that different from advocating Sharia?
Well, I've studied the Quran cover to cover, back to back, and obviously it's a completely different system than a Christian system.
Who cares?
So it would be incompatible with the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence.
Well, so here's the problem, though. The Establishment Clause of the Constitution says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So when you try sneaking in the Bible into the school systems as anything other than an English book or a world religion class, then you are in fact using public schools to promote a religion. Also, we have the Treaty of Tripoli, which the opponents to that treaty even said that this is wrong because it clearly establishes us legally as not a Christian nation.
Well, may I respond to that points by points? I have a response to each statement that you said there.
Sure.
Sure.
I'll respond to it in reverse if I can. The Treaty of Tripoli doesn't say that. Actually, if you look, it was actually a war for people who aren't aware of it, between the Muslim pirates and America. There was some other treaties that actually took place beforehand. If you read the Treaty of Tripoli just carefully, just that itself, there's some quotes back and forth between both parties where they actually affirm that we are a Christian nation that is not like Europe. But in the Treaty of Tripoli, it clearly says America is not, we are not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, as it has an inherent hostility towards Muslim men. So it's not saying that we're not a Christian nation. It's saying that we are not like they are in Europe.
Except that
the context.
except that the opponents, the opponents of the...
You made a lot of points there. If I can I respond to each thing you said before we move on? The Bible in the classroom, you said that that's not fair. The problem is that if you look at it from a historical perspective, the very year the First Amendment was created, Benjamin Rush produced a tract to promote the Bible in the classrooms. This was republished 30 years later by the American Tract Society and carried on into the late 1800s. And so it seems to me that at the founding of our government, the founding fathers did exactly what you're saying shouldn't be the case. And so that's where my disconnect is.
Sure.
Historically, the founding fathers did exactly this. This modern interpretation seems to be taking out of context what the founders meant by the separation of church and state, which is actually, the First Amendment doesn't say separation of church and state. It's a restriction. If you notice what it says here, of what the government can do. Separation of church and state came from the Danbury Baptist Church, from Thomas Jefferson.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Not the Constitution.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
Hey, man. Okay. I'll grant it. Right? Just for the sake of this argument, let's grant it, because I don't care. Right? Slavery was a thing when this country was started. Does that mean that we should take a historical approach and bring back slavery? No.
That's a red herring.
Is right or wrong, or whether or not we want to promote those as values. That's why I don't care about
the red herring.
Does that make sense?
So you don't care about the Constitution? That's what you're saying?
No, don't put words in my mouth. Listen.
I'm listening.
You're
going on to red herrings.
And during its founding.
We had slaves, but that's
okay.
not
Should we bring that back? Should we take a historical approach and bring that back?
But that doesn't have anything to do at all with America being a Christian nation. That should allow.
It does. Try again. Women did not have the vote.
Real quick.
We revoke the vote because we're taking a historical viewpoint of it.
Okay, we're talking about the historical significance of what we are as a country. Are we a secular society or a Christian-based society?
I don't care.
The topic entirely.
Whether or not you think it's right or just, because we as a society can to make change.
On a different topic. I have no problem entertaining it, but we're on a different topic now, right?
It's sacrosanct that we cannot take that we cannot judge whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing. Then I've got to tell you, you're late to the party. Amendments are there for a reason. They're called amendments. Right? We're continuing to grow as a society. I don't care about the historical piece of it because there are tons of terrible things in our history. What I care about is whether or not it is just and whether or not we as a society moving forward should do it. So please.
So you think the restriction, you think that the restriction?
Oh my God, dude. You think, are you just waiting for your turn to talk? No, go ahead. What's your question?
I'm saying it seems like you're changing the topic. I have no problem entertaining what you're saying here, but we're on a different topic altogether, right?
Okay, cool.
We're not talking about.
You brought up, DE, you brought up as part of your argument that it's historical. Mm-hmm. Eric countered with, is everything that is, should we go back to the historical way everything was in the United States? And he used slavery as its specific point. Just because something is historical doesn't mean it's a good idea. That's the question.
That's not what I. So you're adding words to what I said. Then it basically.
Well, okay. So let me back up. Did you make the argument? Did you make the argument that because it's historical, that putting Bibles in schools is historical, we should continue to do it because it was historical?
Oh, here, let me maybe that's the problem. Maybe we should clarify it. And I have no problem going on to the slavery thing if he wants to as well. We can talk about the Bible if you guys want. But just to make it very clear, my concern is the historical facts as to what is actually written in our founding documents in relation to whether we are a secular nation or a religious-based nation, a Christian-based nation. And so my particular stance is, what do the facts actually say about the permission of the Bible in the classroom? So that's what I meant about historically. So now that we're talking about slavery, that's something entirely. Obviously, there are things.
So
TE, that's what you call a fallacy of composition. You don't take one part of what I say and assume that everything else historically is attached to it.
Okay, TE, I
All
don't
right,
know.
you're on mute. I put you on mute, TE. So TE, the slavery argument was brought up as an example of something historical we should get rid of. And it still sounds to me like you're making the argument that because it was done in history, we should continue to do that. So I'm still not, so you haven't clarified anything yet. And I think Eric's on the same page with me. Are you?
That's the entire point of the slavery thing, man, is just because it's historical doesn't mean it's good.
Right. All right. I'm taking you off mute. Okay.
Yeah,
So TE.
Yeah, the point here is that if you want to say that it's not good because you guys are atheists and don't like that idea, I'm willing to entertain that. But I'm just concerned about historically what the facts are and whether or not people today who have an atheist agenda, the secular agenda, however you want to put it, are not appropriately approaching the facts as it was approached, by the people who created that amendment. And so that's what my concern is.
Sure. Here's the thing. I think that argument is one that can also be made for slavery, to bring it back. And I think that ultimately it's a fruitless argument to have. The one that is more beneficial is one where we determine what is fair and just, and we continue to make laws that continue to further our understanding of ethics and fairness in society. Now, if you would like to start a show called Talk Constitution, I highly suggest you do that. It sounds like you want to talk about it. And it sounds like that conversation is one that's a whole lot longer than one that we're going to have because this is a call-in show. That said, I understand what you're saying, man. I do. I just don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck because
how does the slavery thing attach to my argument?
I don't give a fuck because we have amended the Constitution as we as a society have grown. Even if it said constitutionally that
the First Amendment was amended.
Hold on.
It is the amendment. That's why we call it the First Amendment.
No. It wasn't amended. You know what that means, right? Was it amended?
Please let me.
We changed it since James Madison put it.
Wow, I think you're now intentionally taking things out of context.
You're muted. Okay, let's try this. I'm going to finish my statement, and then you're going to get a chance to respond. Okay? Even if it said in the Constitution that the Bible should be taught, even if it said that, my question there is, should we continue to do that? Is it just to do? My argument is that it is not, because it opens the door to others that you would probably disagree with as well. I think that your religion is on the same footing as anybody else's religion. And I think that while that is your personal choice, and that's fantastic, I don't think it should be taught to people's children in a mandatory way in public schools. So if you want to talk about the Constitution, okay, but I already granted you, right? I'm granting you. Okay, let's just pretend that it says that in the Constitution. Is it just? I say no. If you want to continue talking about the Constitution, go for it. I suggest you start a show called Talk Constitution. You're off mute.
Okay, so I'll just give one quick response to that. And if you want to, I'd like to talk about the Bible if we can.
No.
Is that okay?
Nope. You can respond.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to say that that's fine. I mean, that's what the First Amendment is there for, which has not been amended yet since, the founders put that in there, that, there's a freedom for religion. That's why the government has been restricted. It's there for religion. So, yeah, if Muslims want to teach their kids something, they have the right to do that in the public classrooms. And it's the same thing with Christians. And if atheists don't like that, they don't have to have that. And so, I mean, that's the freedom for everybody. I think it's unfair for atheists to ignore what was in the Constitution, what the founding fathers seem to have done the very year it was created, just ignore it and say, well, we don't like it. That's not right. You are going against.
When you say founding fathers,
American.
When you say founding fathers, which founding fathers? Because Ben Franklin was probably a deist at best. Jefferson, he cut the Bible up. The Jeffersonian Bible, he cut all of the supernatural stuff out of it. At best, he was probably a deist. So which founding fathers were going around putting Bibles into the classroom?
I'm plugging back in.
Well, out of the 56 members who put together the Constitution, we know for a fact that 50 of them were devout Christians. Even Thomas Jefferson, who put together the Declaration of Independence, he made it very clear.
Yeah. So, Hugh, you didn't answer the question. Which founding fathers were putting Bibles into the classroom.
But it doesn't matter. It's unjust. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, this is true. It is.
It's a red herring, and it's a rabbit hole that it's a trail that you go down. And honestly, I've seen it enough times that I hate it. I hate it because it distracts from the actual point. The actual point is it just, should we move on as a society that way? I really don't want to sit around and jerk off a bunch of dead guys 300 years ago thinking that they were omniscient.
Right.
Because they weren't.
Yeah.
We continue to grow as a society, and we continue to legislate what we think is moral, because that is how that works.
Yeah. And I think the most telling piece of that is that, did we?
Oh, I dropped it. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, he's...
Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize you dropped him.
No worries. All righty.
Yeah. As to the just thing, I think that what the Satanic Temple does with every time they want to put bring the Bible in, they want to start bringing in their own material as well, is classic reason why you don't want to allow the Bible into the public schools. But anyway, so who do you want to go to next?
Next, I want to thank our patrons.
Oh, yeah.
Or anything. It is our patrons that keep this going. We sincerely appreciate it. If you would like to support us, you like what we do, consider going to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen to me. We're 2/3 of the way through the episode. We thank our top 5 patrons, and I'm going to do that now. Our top 5 patrons this week are Gary, Charlotte, Bethany, Desert Heathen, and we have a tie for 5th. We have Mr. Weed Wacky and RAO. I just want to say thank you both. Sincerely appreciate it. I've actually been in touch with RAO since they called in, and they have since left their faith, and it's been an amazing journey seeing them continue to converse in the community and change and grow, and that's awesome. Keep asking questions, man. I'm glad that you're supporting us. Thank you. That said, let's talk. Who do you want to talk to next?
I think Debbie might be interesting.
Cool. Let's take Debbie in Nebraska. Debbie, you're live with Eric and Jim. What would you like to talk about today?
Hi. Well, I was talking to your screener earlier, and he helped with some of the questions. I am a Christian, and I always have been. And my question is, okay, I had talked to an atheist before, and they said, I'm really jealous of you being a Christian because you have something to look forward to when you die. You go to heaven. And being an atheist, when I die, I have nothing to look forward to. I'm just going to stay dead and not have, be in heaven and be happy forever. What is your response to that?
Sure, absolutely. So if I were to tell you that in 5 years you're going to be given $1 million, that'd be pretty nice, right? Does that make it true? No.
You'd have to show me.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I would say don't go into debt expecting it to be true, right?
Right, because I don't know you.
Well, and I say the same thing about life after death. We don't have any evidence to show that there's anything but this meat sack that we're in. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it actually puts a lot of value on this life that we're living to do the best with it that we can, because it's our only shot. And I see value in a lot in this world around me. I think it's sad that people would say that to you, because we're creating value around us all of the time. If anything, the friends and family that we create, right? The want to make the world a better place by the time we're gone. But to say, that it's sad, I really don't care whether or not it's sad, because if you were sold a false bill of goods, I think that that's atrocious. I would not want to lie to my children because it made them feel better. And I wouldn't want to lie to other people because it made them feel better. I think it's honest to say, we don't know.
So when you have, let's say, your spouse die or a loved one, it's, to you, when they're dead, you'll never see them again. Is that correct? Unlike a Christian where we think we'll all meet again?
Yeah, I actually had to grieve twice, and there are a lot of people who did. And I think that is one of the most gut-wrenching things that Christianity has done. I think it's actually horrible that it's happened that way, that people would be sold this false bill of goods, the idea that they don't need to make amends or make right with the people they love because they're going to get another chance later. No, it's wishful thinking, but it also devalues the time we have here now. And it doesn't really matter. It hurts. Yes. I think it hurts more to mourn them twice.
Well, as a Christian, I try to be as nice as I can to the people that are around me and living, as well as look forward to seeing my dead relatives that I love in the future. I mean, I try to be a good person to the people that are around me as well.
That's awesome. I don't think that's Christian, because I can be a good person too, right?
Yeah, I do the same thing. So for me, the fact that I'm very, very mortal and there's nothing after it means that if I want to have that perfect good life, I need to get moving on it right now. Every day, every second of every day. I can't wait until I'm dead, because there's nothing after I'm dead. There's no consciousness. There's nothing. So if I want that better life, I've got to get started in doing it today. I can't put anything off until tomorrow. If I want to tell people that I love them, if I want to show them affection, if I want them to know how I feel about them, I have to tell them today, because tomorrow is not promised. And there'll be nothing after that. There's just no way for them to know. So in many ways, it really focuses me on what I want right now and what I need to focus on, and keeps me focused, as opposed to, for instance, my parents, who aren't nearly as focused on that. They're just kind of, things will get better for them when they die. And it's not that they don't have bad things happening to them now, or they're living in a bad place. They've got life pretty comfortable, but that is still their attitude. And they're just letting life happen to them, as opposed to happening to life. And I think that's a danger in thinking there's something better after you're dead. It's very easy to get lazy thinking you have an eternity to do something.
Can I tie into?
Oh, I don't feel that way.
Oh, good. Not every Christian does. I should have been a little bit clearer on that. Not every Christian does.
I would love to tie.
And you're fine.
I'd love to tie into something that Jim said. We keep talking over each other. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What?
Are you a Mormon?
No.
Okay. Have you met Mormons?
Yes, I even have a Mormon Bible.
Awesome. The
because
book of
I love different religions. It's something in cults. It's my interest.
Sure. Same here. That's one of the reasons I became an atheist.
Yeah.
that said,
I can understand. Yeah.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of Mormon missionaries, and I've become friends with a good number of them too in my life. And there's this idea that this is the waiting room before the big show. And so instead of pursuing those interests that they find valuable, they're instead racking up as many points as they can, because they think that that's what's going to matter in the afterlife. And for someone like myself or Jim, if you step into our shoes for just a minute, how tragic is that? Until we can determine that life after death is even possible, we shouldn't behave as though we already know that it is. It's a false bill of goods. It's like telling you that there's $1 million coming your way. Just need to do X, Y, and Z. I think it's sad.
I guess, to me, it's just nice to have something to look forward to, especially as I get older and older. And, it's just nice to know that. And it would be nice to be able to see you too in heaven someday and say, hey, how the heck you doing? And that's just my belief. And I don't want to, I'm not an arguer. And I'm not saying Mormons are bad or good or whatever, but
you sound like a very sweet person. It just
well, thank you.
You do. That said, I really would love for you to think about whether or not that the God belief, the Bible belief, but specifically the heaven belief, is justified. Because I don't think there's a justification for it. And I can give you an example because you are incredibly sweet, and I don't want to get off the phone with you just yet. Is there free will in heaven?
I don't know.
Do you believe in free will? Do you think we have free will?
You mean right now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the coronavirus is over, maybe.
I adore you.
That's awesome.
You know what we mean, though. You know what I mean. Do you think that we have free will?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what?
I said, do you think that we have free will?
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
In the United States, yep.
Well, I mean, just as humans, right? Are we robots walking around, or are we making choices in some significant way that's outside of our bodies?
Yeah, I'd say yes.
Sure. Okay. Is there free will in heaven?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would like to think. I mean, no one knows for sure.
Well,
all I know is you're happy forever and there's no pain.
That sounds terrifying. Because
what?
That sounds terrifying. How would that still be you?
Oh, who cares? I'm way overweight and I'm ugly and my eyes are terrible.
Oh,
so.
I really hope that you do care, because I want you to have good reasons for the things that you believe, and not just because it makes you feel good. Because if you do that, you run the risk of opening yourself up to really dangerous ideas and people who can take advantage of you. That same reasoning, it's right because it feels good, can get you in a lot of really bad places. And you're way too sweet a person to fall down that trap.
Well, I don't know who would hurt me because I believe in something good, but
no, it's true because it makes me feel good. I'm specifically talking about that piece. It's true because it makes me feel good.
Yeah, and I do believe it.
Because it makes you feel good.
No, because I have in my past seen where God has helped me. I know it was God who helped me through different things that I prayed for.
Now that
Now
that is a conversation that I want to have another day. Would you be interested in calling back on another weekend? Because that's a conversation I would love to have with you.
Sure, I don't have anything better to do.
Thanks. We only have,
I'm stuck at home. Yeah.
Yeah, we only
have
2,500 people watching. You got nothing better to do.
And I don't mean that in a harsh way.
We didn't take it that way. We didn't. We didn't take it that way at all.
Yeah, just giving you a hard time. Please stay safe out there, man.
Okay. Well, I tell you, God bless, but I know better.
So
we appreciate the sentiment.
That.
Okay.
We appreciate the sentiment. Take care, man.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
There's not enough atheists that take that as the sentiment, not the words, is important. But
yeah, there's a difference between God bless you, like in a just snarky, mean-spirited way, and then there's a lot of people say God bless you, or blessings or something like that go with God, and that's just how they know how to say I love you, or that's how they know how to say I hope you're safe or take care of yourself. And you're right, the sentiment is important. I agree. That said, let's move on and talk to, who do you want to talk about? Who do you want to talk to? We've got some amazing callers on the line. Holy moly.
Kevin might be interesting.
Okay, let's talk to Kevin in New York. Kevin, you're live with Eric and Jim.
Hey.
We're backing up against a wall at 3. for Atheist Vanguard, and we do have to take other callers. So I hate to be, pushing through, but I want to make sure that we have time to talk to you and about what you want to talk about.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Well, I wanted to get into why I believe that there's a soul.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I mean, I also wanted to ask you guys why it is the way that you think that it is, because with the vast array of information that we can take in today, we're able to see and read about or whatever other people's testimony on what they've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
But what having to do with the soul and the atheist opinion, but I don't want to try to build a straw man, but correct me if I'm wrong, but that there isn't a soul, and that all these testimonies that are out there are people having auditory or visual hallucinations, because
sure. I'll actually agree with you. People do have auditory and visual hallucinations, and I think they have it a whole lot more than our society recognizes. That said, there's a little bit more to it, and I want to give you an example to try and help illustrate that. I remember reading a news article, and I would love for people in the live chat and in the comments to help link this. But I read about a cancer research institute that had developed what they considered to be a cure for cancer, right? Upon investigation, it turns out that there was a really high mortality rate, that it was atrocious. But what they were doing is they were doing something called counting the hits and ignoring the misses. Right? What they were doing was everyone who survived, they had them write a testimony. And when you went to their website or you looked them up, you would see this mountain of testimonies. The problem is we have no way of knowing how many those are out of. We don't know whether or not it was cherry picked. And if we look at near-death experiences, right, which is, I think, what you're pointing towards, is it? I don't want to assume.
Yes.
Yeah. When we're talking about near-death experiences, there is a rational explanation for most of it. That's what happens when your brain gets deprived of oxygen. And those are the kinds of things that happen as you are losing consciousness and dying. The process of dying is that, and your imagination fills in a lot, especially after the fact. And curiously, if you were to hear about near-death experiences, it seems to match their already preconditioned beliefs. So if you have a Christian, they're going to see heaven. But if you have a non-Christian who believes in another thing that happens after death, they think they saw that other thing as well. Because of that, we now have a mix of things. We have potentially counting the hits and ignoring the misses. By the way, that Cancer Institute moved to another country and are still doing it. They're still taking desperate people who are dying, and it's really atrocious. How do we get away from that? You're pointing at anecdotal evidence, right? Those personal testimonies. What I'm saying is, how do we determine whether or not that's a reliable sample?
Well, people can take this as whatever they want and don't necessarily have to follow the Christian example, because yes, I've heard that too, that when people procedurally have near-death experiences, that they see whatever God or religion that they fell under during their lifetime. But the auditory and visual hallucinations denote that it has some type of randomization to it, which I don't buy. You know what I mean? And one thing that I've learned is that you could talk to any neurological doctor and say that it at least takes 6 minutes of the brain being deprived of oxygen, in which it starts dying, and it is impossible to produce both auditory and visual hallucinations then.
Not true. So I can tell you I've experienced auditory and hallucinations well before 6 minutes.
Hmm.
I mean, I was taking
Well,
drugs, but that's still proof of concept.
I was
Um,
completely sober
yeah,
and mostly asleep.
because
yeah, actually, yeah.
death is a process, you know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
you know, those under the 6 minutes, your body is going through the process of dying, but not yet dead, and that's when your brain starts acting in strange ways.
And
But
so the question is, really, is there a ghost in the machine? Right? Is there something piloting this meat sack, this body? Is there some ghost that's inhabiting it? How have you determined that there's something outside of us or outside of our physical existence that continues to move on and exist? How did you determine that we have souls or something like it?
well, because it's a very good idea to go about this with a skeptical mind, but
Yeah,
because of the testimonies that people have, um, it's a mistake to dismiss all of them.
no.
So let me ask you this: if somebody comes up to you and says they spoke to someone you know is dead because you watched them die and bury them, should you take that as true, or should you dismiss it? And more importantly, how would you go about determining whether that person actually experienced talk to the dead person after they were dead? How would you go about determining either position was true, either that he did in fact do that or that he did not? How would you go about determining that is true
Um,
or false?
well, that gets into a lot of things. I would dismiss them telling me that,
Okay.
because I would know that I'd have to locally be there. They'd have to reproduce what they experienced, so I could experience it in the exact same way.
Okay. So
But,
let me ask you this.
but
Let me ask you this.
I'm
Let's say it's
sorry.
1,000 people.
Yeah.
Let's say it's 1,000 people. Same story. Now, how do you determine? Do you now believe them because there's 1,000 of them? Same story, same situation. The only difference is instead of one person telling you this, it's 1,000 people.
That's only if their stories have consistency to it.
They're consistency. They're consistent.
Yes.
What does the number have to do with whether or not the number of people who accept the story is true? What does that have to do with the story actually being true?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. Well, because I don't know. In some cases, it's a little bit of a stretch. In some cases, what people talk about as what they experience has an immediate or direct effect on them or the people surrounding them, and so that story has to have consistency to it in order for you to know that it's the truth.
But what does a consistent story have to do with the story being true?
Well, it's off of the inherent thinking that not everybody lies. I mean, I don't know.
They don't even have to lie.
No, they don't have to lie. Example.
I know.
Can I give you an example?
I know that everybody. I
Oh,
know that everybody's perception is due to being falsified because they're perceiving it, say, from a different angle from another person.
Sure.
Uh,
Can we
but
can we plant this a little closer? Just I understand. I'm really glad you're there. Um, so do you know how many people have cited Elvis after his death? Tons, right?
uh, well, yeah. I mean,
I'm assuming you don't
well,
believe that Elvis faked his death and has been cited randomly like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness monster. And there's actually a name to this fallacy. Because it is a fallacious line of thinking, and Jim's walking you through it. For those people at home, it's called ad populum. Just because it's popular, just because a lot of people believe it, doesn't mean it's necessarily true. And just being religious it's not just a religious thing, it's a human thing. We thought the same about the ether in science and humors. There are so many things that we have mistook to be true. The teachings of Galen on medical history and knowledge of the human body. People thought just because it was popular that it was true. But that shouldn't be the reasoning. It should stand or fall on its own merits, and not whether or not a lot of people believe it.
yes. Well, yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Well, I mean, I'm a believer because things in the Bible, especially the people that were listed in there. Well, you got to understand one thing, that during Jesus' time, there actually was no such thing as a separation of government and state in such a way to where people had to. It was both consented by the people and the government that they should all register their names and even the children that they had, because they lived in such a different culture. It was very strict for one thing,
I don't know
and
where you're going with it.
I don't see where you're going.
Help us here.
Well, where I'm going with it is that the people in the Bible existed for sure, and
is it possible that the places existed and the people didn't?
No.
Why?
Is it possible that the places existed and the people didn't?
Yeah, the people depicted in the stories. Is it possible that they existed and didn't do all of the things that were said to have been done to them? We as humans tend to mythologize people over time, and we can see that the authorship of the Bible definitely shows enough time that we can say, you know what, that there can be a lot of mythology added in.
Well, still to this day, there are records both within Vatican and Jerusalem libraries containing the records of descendants that lived in the area during that time.
Sure. I challenge you to look into that and give us a call back, because I think that the more you look into extra biblical evidence for the existence of Jesus, and specifically, and I'm going to give this to you really, really specifically because I really want this, is evidence for the miracle claims. I would love to see that. I have not yet seen it yet. Not yet seen it yet. Isn't that just great English? I have not yet seen it. Anyway, Kevin, we've got a. What's up?
Okay. All right. Thanks for taking my call.
No worries. Hopefully, I had fun.
Yeah,
Jim.
definitely.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Take care, man.
You too. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Let's move on to Randy in North Texas. Randy, you're live with Eric and Jim.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, we are fighting the clock, my friend. What did you want to talk about?
All right, and I'll be real quick.
Sure.
So with your Carlos call, with your Simpsons analogy, do you know that they have predicted things and they have come true?
What?
So your Simpsons analogy is the best. Like they predicted Trump winning the presidency.
Yeah.
Years and years ago. I mean, an extra depth to that.
Yeah. Now,
but
that raises the question: was it coincidentally true, or was it prophesied?
More than likely.
Coincidentally or prophesied?
Stick enough things at the wall. Coincidence.
Okay, good.
You stick enough things at the wall, something's going to stick.
Sure, absolutely. What did you want to talk about?
So, I was a Southern Baptist.
Okay.
Probably I would consider myself still believing, probably about 3 to 4 years ago.
Okay.
Stumbled upon, Atheist Experience and Matt and some Aaron Ross. I still get it wrong.
Okay.
Videos, and it made me question. So I started looking, and obviously don't have enough there. So, questions no one had answers. So just kind of fell off of it.
Okay.
My wife still believes.
Okay.
To the point where I wouldn't say she's necessarily practicing, like she doesn't go to church. We don't go, the family doesn't go, the whole 9 yards. But we have a 5-year-old, well, he's 5 now. And the things have come up, like with his school, they do, the previous daycare he was in, the one now doesn't do it as much, but they do a prayer before lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see a problem with it because he's still, to me, he's still too young to make those reasons decisions. But I was wondering what y'all thought of, or I guess resources when he starts getting older and has those questions between the two of us.
Sure.
Because like I said, she believes and I don't.
So, I think that we had a similar call earlier today, and right out the gate, we need to.
Oh, I missed that call.
No worries. That's okay. Right out of the gate, we need to say, hey, we're not professionals, and highly recommend that going to counseling is going to be where you're going to be able to make the most tailored, solutions. And so I highly suggest going to therapy. That said, personally, my outlook on it is this: encourage thinking and encourage exploration. And hey, I don't know either. Let's look at it together. Let's explore this together. Because the more good tools you give them, the better they're going to be equipped to be able to approach those things later in life.
Right.
Yeah. And I would say that, unlike our first caller, you have the added complication that you have a wife. And what I would do if I was in your situation is I would ask myself, what's more important, my relationship with my wife and my son, or my atheism? And I wouldn't necessarily say that's, you put one or the other, but you kind of got to keep those three things in line and in check and in balance. And that might be a very, very hard thing to do. Seek counseling and get some outside help, but keep focused on what's most important in your life right now. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you defer anything or you stop being an atheist or anything along those lines. It just means you have to find a very, very gentle way around the big issues and things like that. You just have to take a lot more care, but just keep
right.
focused on what's important to you.
Okay. Yeah. It's one of those things, hearing it from someone else helps you guide your own decisions as well.
Yeah.
Having more than one input is always better.
Right.
In that vein, and on your lovely caller earlier with the life after death and when you're gone, you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
I know having the 5-year-old explaining that has been fun with, we've had experienced a loss maybe not recently enough for him to fully remember, but having to make those explanations of, my wife saying, they're in heaven, you'll see them when you get there and it'll be all good, versus mine is, yes, they're gone, but as long as you hold them and remember them, they're never truly gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that is going to be unique to each couple, and that's something that I highly suggest that you work together with your wife on when it comes to co-parenting. And
Right.
Getting help is the best suggestion I got. But we're almost out of time. I really do hope that helps.
It does. And I have one more quick one, real quick.
I don't have the time. I've got to take another person. I'm sorry. Take care, my man.
Oh, you got it. Take it easy, boss.
Take it easy, Randy.
You too. Brandon in Okinawa. You've been waiting this entire time. We only have a few minutes left. What did you want to talk about?
Hey, hello. So I wanted to talk about a little bit about epistemology and whether or not it is actually possible to meet the burden of proof on an omnipotent God, because I know many people will try and do this, and I don't think that it is possible, actually.
I don't either.
And so
we agree with you.
We completely agree.
You wouldn't just say, because my understanding of your position was that you don't think that burden of proof has been met yet. I don't think it can be met.
So if you're talking about the omnigod, it can't be met.
Yeah, it's logically, there's some contradictions in there that happen with an omnipotent, with the omnigod.
Yeah, can God create a boulder so heavy he can't lift it is the one that people normally go to. I think that description of a God is absolutely useless and cannot possibly be true.
I mean, I personally don't like that sort of argument, simply because I think that you can come up with an idea of an omnipotent God that is not logically contradictory. And so when it comes to, can God create a married bachelor? No, saying
that's why apologists have moved to saying maximal. They say maximally powerful, maximally, and it's just kind of a way to use weasel wording to get out of those logical contradictions.
Right. I mean, I think not even from a logical contradiction. Like, I think simply from the standpoint of, if we can say that there is no limit to how much God can bench press, there's no way for us to determine that. No matter how much we saw God bench press, we could just say that he is sufficiently strong enough to bench press that much.
Yes. We completely agree.
And so,
yep.
Anyway, I think that ultimately we're in agreement. I don't think I want to take up too much of your time.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries, man. Take care, brother.
Take it easy.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. All right. That said, we've got the Atheist Vanguard coming up in about a minute and a half. So I want to say, Jim, dude, thank you so much for joining me today.
That was so much fun. You're so welcome. Anytime.
Absolutely. I want to thank the people who are spread all over the place. Our crew, thank you so much. There's our crew cam showing absolutely no one, because we're doing our best to be safe out there. And we do want you to be safe out there. So, Jim, do you remember how to end the show?
Vaguely.
Okay. I'll start us off. So first we say a message to non-believers. And the message that we have there today, at least, is we know most of you are at home. And we know that it's probably driving you stir crazy. But we're lucky enough to have an international community that we can still keep in touch with. This is still your community, wherever you are. I think we had some really good calls today, and hopefully that helped, and hopefully it can help you and where you're at. Now, Jim, here's the part where we say, but if you do believe, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong.
Absolutely.
So, we're going to throw those love rings up. Thank you, Mark. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. To those of you who do believe,
we
don't hate you.
We don't hate you.
We just think you're wrong.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No, you're done.